that shouldn't affect him too much. But it just shows he's a very stupid man, because there's so many instances. I mean, one of the things that he's been complaining about...
magic mushrooms in California.
You idiot.
There's a fair amount of drugs, marijuana, magic mushrooms, cocaine. I mean, that's going to surprise people.
But important to acknowledge.
Prince Harry's name is back in the headlines, and no, it's not for some noble gesture or royal achievement. This time, it's because something deeply disturbing allegedly unfolded behind the closed gates of Montecito. Whispers from royal insiders and underground sources are all pointing to one shocking event. Prince Harry was found unresponsive in his California mansion and had to be rushed to the hospital. And what's more, Meghan Markle, his wife, was nowhere to be found. In fact, she was reportedly seen laughing and sipping cocktails with her inner circle at an exclusive members-only club. As Harry lay unconscious, fighting for his life, Meghan was allegedly creating an alibi. Let that sink in. Before we go any further, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. What you're about to hear isn't making the front pages, but it should. We dig deeper, past the palace press releases and into the truth they don't want you to know. So if you're tired of sugar-coated spin, hit that subscribe button now. The details emerging are grim. According to those familiar with the situation, it was Harry's longtime bodyguard David Langdown who discovered him. This isn't some random security detail. Langdown is a former Scotland Yard officer, someone who stood by Harry since the early 2000s, and was even awarded a medal by Queen Elizabeth herself. His job isn't just to protect the Duke of Sussex, it's to keep him alive, and this time he may have done just that. Reports say Langdown found Harry completely unresponsive and immediately called for emergency medical help. The rush to the hospital was intense. Sirens through the hills of Montecito, flashing lights, a convoy of silence. Harry was in recovery, 4 hours before finally stabilizing, and during all of this, the one person who should have been there, Meghan, was reportedly nowhere in sight. Instead, eyewitnesses claim she was laughing and enjoying herself at an elite social club, acting as if nothing had happened. It's not just callous, it's calculated. Some are saying it wasn't just absence, it was strategy, and the deeper you dig, the worse it gets. Because Harry's ties to drugs and addiction aren't a one-off rumor. They've followed him for years. Whispers about cannabis, magic mushrooms, even cocaine have long trailed his name. In his own memoir, he touched on substances, but always with the tone of youthful experimentation. The truth may be far more serious. There are resurfacing stories that go back to 2007 about Harry doing things most wouldn't believe. Snorting vodka, not drinking it. Medical experts say that method can kill almost instantly, but at the time it barely made a dent. In the media, and why not? Because every time a scandal like this came close to surfacing, the palace stepped in. Royal PR would cover it with a charity campaign, a smiling photo op, or a military award ceremony. The truth was buried under layers of controlled messaging. There was even an instance during his army service where a surprise drug test was announced, and according to a palace staffer, Harry was mysteriously flown off base that same day. Coincidence? Or something more? Meghan's role in all of this is now under intense scrutiny. Rumors are swirling that she hasn't just tolerated Harry's downward spiral, she's allegedly been enabling it. Some insiders go further, suggesting she uses substances to maintain control, keeping him in a fog of dependence while she manages their public image. Sound far-fetched? Maybe. But then again, stories from her first marriage in Jamaica have guests reportedly received gift bags filled with pre-rolled joints, not party favors, actual drugs. Asterisk, and it doesn't end there. Meghan's mother, Doria Ragland, is also being pulled into the speculation. Insiders whisper that Doria's past may not be as clean as her public image suggests, allegations unconfirmed, but persistent point to deep ties within certain California circles that operate far from the world of yoga studios and wellness retreats. If those rumors hold even a grain of truth, it would mean that Meghan was raised in an environment where discretion, influence, and access weren't just accidental, they were learned. And now, people are beginning to ask how much of Harry's downward spiral was organic, and how much of it was orchestrated. Because, here's the thing, this isn't just about a troubled man and a party-hopping wife. It's about a pattern, a disturbing chain of events that, when lined up, paint a picture of long-term decline, surrounded by enablers, cover-ups, and well-oiled PR machines. Prince Harry has long been protected from consequence, and while that might sound like privilege, to some, what it actually created was a ticking time bomb. Years of unresolved trauma, decades of image management, and now it's all imploding. Even royal biographers like Penny Junor, who've chronicled the family for decades, have quietly hinted at Harry's turbulent youth. It wasn't just rebellion, it was danger. There were blackouts, screaming fits, aggressive outbursts, And through it all, the palace turned its head the other way. In one desperate attempt to contain the chaos, Prince Charles reportedly had a private nightclub built inside Highgrove, so Harry could party under supervision. Think about that, a nightclub, inside a royal residence. That's not a solution. That's a bandage on a bullet wound. And now, the bullet has struck. Fast forward to this year, and the stories are starting to surface again. But this time, they're darker, more specific, more personal. There's the report of Harry, allegedly, inhaling a canister of hospital-grade laughing gas not during a medical procedure. But as a stunt, there are whispers of violent outbursts during their time in Canada. And most recently, there's the shocking suggestion that Meghan used Harry's vulnerabilities as leverage feeding the addiction rather than fighting it. The reaction from the palace? Total silence. But behind that silence, insiders claim, is panic. As soon as Harry was admitted to the hospital, sources say phones in London lit up. Charles was personally informed within the hour. Not because he was going to rush to California, but because the palace needed to start damage control immediately. No statement was released. No acknowledgement. But make no mistake, the royal machine was already working overtime. Not to help Harry, but to contain the story. What's reportedly unfolding now is a full-blown internal audit. Senior officials are said to be combing through years of reports, correspondence, and behavior logs. They want to know who knew what and when. And perhaps most tellingly, the focus of the investigation isn't just on Harry, it's on Meghan. Did she supply substances? Did she actively isolate Harry from his family? Did she build a bubble of dependence so tight that he couldn't see it crumbling around him? These aren't just tabloid questions anymore. They're palace-level inquiries. And in the middle of all this, Doria, Meghan's mother, quiet, ever-smiling Doria, who rarely speaks in public and never appears without purpose. According to those close to the situation, Doria has been far more involved in Meghan's decisions than previously known. Some insiders suggest she's the silent force behind the couple's PR strategy. Others go further, hinting at a behind-the-scenes role in Harry's continued seclusion. Again, nothing proven. But when questions like this begin circulating within Buckingham Palace, you know the situation is reaching critical mass. So where does that leave us? With a royal family in crisis, and a man who once symbolized youthful rebellion now reduced to a shadow of himself? The troubling part isn't just the substance, it's the silence. Because the people who were supposed to help Prince Harry haven't just failed him. They've protected him to death's doorstep. From palace aides who cleaned up messes to media outlets that looked the other way, the list of those complicit keeps growing. And while Harry spirals, Meghan builds her alibi. Eyewitnesses say she was spotted at a members-only club in Los Angeles. The same night Harry was allegedly rushed to the hospital. Not hiding, not distressed laughing, smiling, present, not beside her husband, but in a room full of influencers and executives maintaining the brand. That's what insiders are calling it now brand management. As if that's what matters when your partner is unconscious, potentially because of an overdose. One source close to the royal circle dropped a word that sent shockwaves: alibi. They didn't say Meghan was panicked or distraught. They said she was being seen intentionally, as if the plan wasn't to be absent, but to be photographed elsewhere, publicly. And the court of public opinion is catching on. What once felt like a love story has started to feel like a calculated game, and the people watching aren't so charmed anymore. But here's the part that's truly gut-wrenching. This story isn't new. It's just no longer hidden. People around Harry have known about his behavior for years. There are former palace staffers, bodyguards, and royal reporters who all have stories. Stories about Harry locked in his room for days, screaming at staff, vanishing for entire weekends. One insider described it as a man with everything, losing everything one secret at a time. And still, no one said anything. And that's where the blame shifts. Yes, Harry's made choices, but the royal family made decisions. Decisions to protect the institution over the individual, to prioritize image over intervention. And now that decades of damage are catching up with him, the palace is acting not to heal him, but to shield themselves from the fallout. Behind closed doors, lawyers are now involved, but not for a divorce, not yet. According to reports, they're preparing for a media explosion, a complete reputational disaster if Harry decides to speak, because if he breaks his silence and starts naming names about drugs, cover-ups, emotional manipulation, it won't just burn bridges, it could collapse the whole facade. That's what has the palace scared. That's why the phones rang through the night, and that's why Meghan's absence is suddenly more than suspicious. It's dangerous. Because if this spirals further, and the public turns against her, there may be no protection this time. No Hollywood redemption arc. No or Netflix paycheck big enough to fix the damage. Not when the narrative shifts from troubled prince to manipulated victim. Not when insiders start whispering that Meghan didn't just fail to help Harry, she helped break him. It's already begun. Court insiders are quietly revisiting major events from the last 5 years. The Oprah interview, the Frogmore exit, the royal security debates. Not just for PR impact, but for behavioral patterns. They want to understand whether Meghan intentionally distanced Harry from his family, whether she interfered with royal protocols to create division, whether the entire Megxit story was really about love and freedom or about control and escape, asterisk, because if that theory holds even partially, it means the British monarchy didn't just lose a working royal, it lost a prince to a private system of isolation, manipulation, and decline. And now, with Harry lying in a hospital bed and Meghan allegedly smiling for cameras across town, people are starting to question everything. This isn't tabloid speculation anymore. It's a potential unraveling of one of the most carefully protected royal narratives in modern history. Even staunch supporters of Harry and Meghan are going quiet. Former allies in Hollywood are distancing themselves. Media outlets that once pushed glowing profiles are now tiptoeing away. And royal watchers, those who've followed the family for decades, say this could be the start of something far worse than just a personal crisis. Because if what's being whispered in elite circles is true, then this isn't just about Harry and Meghan, it's about how power protects itself and what it's willing to sacrifice to survive. Take David Langdown. Again, the loyal bodyguard, he's not just some background character. He's a key witness to years of behind-the-scenes chaos. He's seen the Vegas meltdowns, the drug binges, the emotional collapses. And now, he's the one who made the call that may have saved Harry's life. What happens if he talks? What if the one man who's never spoken finally decides to break his silence? Because at this point, that might be the only way the world ever gets the truth. The palace can hide documents, Meghan can post carefully curated photos, PR teams can flood headlines with distractions, but people like Langdown, they're different. They were there. And with pressure mounting, it's only a matter of time before someone speaks. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, contingency plans are being drafted, not just for public relations, but for legacy management. The firm, the inner structure of the royal families, said to be preparing narratives just in case things go fully public. Narratives that shift blame, that recast history, that try to preserve what's left of their dignity if the Harry situation explodes. And yet, through all of this noise, one image stands out. Prince Harry, unconscious, alone, while the world turns. It's haunting. A man born into unimaginable privilege, given every opportunity, shielded from consequence. And yet he ends up here battling demons that no title or fortune could protect him from. This isn't about royal gossip anymore, it's about a system that failed. A man who never healed. A woman accused of playing puppet master, and a family that turned its back until it was nearly too late. Asterisk, what makes this all so tragic is that none of it had to happen. Prince Harry was never just a rebel without a cause. He was a boy who lost his mother under the flash of paparazzi bulbs. A teenager shoved into the spotlight before he could grieve. A man who asked for space but got spectacle. And every time he tried to pull away from the press, from the palace, from the pain, someone pushed him back into the spotlight, branded him a liability, or worse, a traitor. And yet, even as the world watches this slow collapse, many refuse. To call it what it is, it's not just a rough patch or a PR misstep. It's a crisis. A psychological unraveling. A possible OD that nearly cost him everything. And if even part of that is true, then Harry's story becomes more than just headlines. It becomes a cautionary tale. A tale of what happens when trauma is ignored. A tale of what happens when fame becomes a prison. A tale of what happens when the people who are supposed to love you most use that love as leverage. And now, with Harry recovering behind hospital walls and Meghan Markle's whereabouts drawing international scrutiny, one question echoes louder than any palace statement. Is anyone finally going to help him more? Are they just going to help themselves? The whispers from inside Buckingham Palace are getting louder. The narrative is shifting. Once viewed as the disruptors, Harry and Meghan are now being dissected like symptoms of a much bigger illness. The firm isn't worried about headlines anymore. They're worried about survival. And if that means Meghan is thrown under the bus to preserve the monarchy, so be it. The Queen is gone. The crown is aging. And scandals like this don't just disappear, they detonate. So what happens next? That depends on whether the world keeps watching, because if the media goes quiet, if the palace spins another charity story, if the press buries the truth one more time, then this cycle continues. Harry doesn't heal, Meghan walks free, and the machine grinds forward. But if the public demands accountability, if insiders keep leaking, if people stop being afraid of reputational fallout, then maybe, just maybe, the truth survives the spin. And if you want to make sure you don't miss that truth when it finally breaks through the noise, hit that subscribe button right now. We're not done uncovering the secrets they want buried. We're just getting started. From palace whispers to Hollywood backrooms, we follow the trail they don't want you to see. So stick with us, and we'll keep pulling back the curtain. Because the truth matters even when it's messy, even when it's painful, especially when it's royal.